Earlier, I totally forgot to hit the record button. There's nothing. I just started the recording. So this is from the start. This is the start.
Perfect.
So we haven't talked about anything yet. This is just the beginning. This is
Hi,
totally the beginning of
Dmitry.
the
How
part.
are
Hi,
you?
Rosia. How are
Okay.
you? Haven't talked to you in forever.
I know.
I am fantastical. Welcome to Bicycle Thought Podcast with Dmitry and Rosia. And today we'll be talking a little bit about the book.
What your clutter is trying to tell you.
Yeah, what your clutter is trying to tell you,
Decluttering.
which is a really useful book for anyone who has a lot of clutter and is a little bit disorganized, like me. There's shit everywhere in this room, but you can't see it because I'm very creative with my camera angles and
And the
background,
backgrounds.
thanks to Rosia. So
Yeah.
yeah, and we'll
And we're
also
going to
talk.
talk a little bit about bikes at the end, just to make honor to the name of the podcast.
Yeah, so this is a Bicycle Thought podcast, and we named it after trains of thought, or train of thought, as in the expression. And this podcast really has nothing to do with bicycles. We've posted several podcasts now, and we have not spoken a single word about any actual bicycles. So, in order to confuse people, we decided to talk a little bit about bicycles, actual bicycles on this podcast.
But yeah, about the book. Yeah, so decluttering. I mean, I think we
Let's start with the book first. So,
okay. So the first half of the book was talking mostly about just regular declutter your space, see what parts what is so like clutter is anything that's the way they define it, anything that stands in your way of achieving your dreams in your life. Uh, so it's not
oh,
only
so not
like
just like physical things like clutter.
yeah, so usually it's like, I mean, yeah, a lot of like your wardrobe, your if you have any like books, gadgets, anything
Mhm.
in your house that like yeah, like physical stuff, like physical items that collect, but it can also be even like toxic relationships or a job that you don't like or even like extra body weight or getting rid of debt, like habits, like anything that stays that is affecting your life and is like you need to get rid of it, they consider that clutter. So the book went a lot more deep than I thought it initially was going to be. The first is like mainly like 6 chapters. The first 3 chapters were like, okay, find what in your particular case, like what in your life is causing you is the most difficult to get rid of. Is it just your closet or is it something else, like, and then just finding, and then at the end of every chapter there was a lot of journaling involved. So at the end of every chapter they were asking some questions and then asking you to spend like 10 minutes just journaling about. So first is like what items are causing the most trouble, like yeah, what type of items are causing the most trouble. And then they say just like let it flow, like write and just let it flow about everything that goes in your mind, like why is this causing me so much trouble, like what is it about this particular clutter that is so difficult, like is it because I'm afraid I'm gonna need it later, is it something else, is it something like beyond that, is there like childhood trauma that is causing me not to get rid of this, like anything can be. So they said like yeah, write everything, why is it so hard, just anything that goes through your mind, write it down, then finish 10 minutes, sit back, and then read it again. Like they say, read what you wrote with like empathy and with just understanding, like not judging. um and then look at the, like after you write, after you read it, then look at the clutter again and see if you feel different about it. about how, yeah.
Yeah, I find like writing things down or making a list, for me at least, it's
Mm-hmm.
always helped me kind of because you go throughout the day and just like it doesn't matter if it's like clutter or you're making some other kind of list like your to-do list, for example.
Yeah.
So if you go throughout your day and you try to remember like 100 different small tasks or things that you have
Mm-hmm.
to do, you're constantly forgetting some things, forgetting others, or not getting a chance to do them. And it causes you great amount of stress that a lot of times you don't even realize that it's causing you stress that you're trying to remember all those things. And just writing them down on paper, making a list, it
Mm-hmm.
lets you visually sort of quantify them, and it lets you see them a little bit more objectively, almost trying to see them from third person view.
They also had a very interesting exercise, like related to what you just said. It was like decluttering your mind. So very similar, like
Mm-hmm.
just
That's basically
go
what I'm
to
talking
your,
about.
yeah, like go to your journal and they say spend 10 minutes, set a timer for 10 minutes and just write everything that is on your mind right now. Like everything, like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, oh, I need this to get done. Like you, anything, like just write everything that is like your worries, or like when you write it down, they say like look at the things that you said in there, and then from there like see if there are any actions that you need to take. So like me actions. And then you divide it in like me actions, someone else actions, and no one actions. Because some things are just, oh, I just hope things are better in this. But like there's nothing
Yeah.
you can do or someone else can do. So let it go. If it's something like someone else, like, oh, I want my mail to arrive because this and that, like just let it go. This is not, it doesn't depend on you. And they say like from there, like basically extract the me actions and then focus on those and let go the rest.
Yeah, because when something is, I realize that a lot of times when we're stressed and things are bothering us, a lot of the time, those things that are stressing us out and things that we're burning emotional energy thinking about those things over and over again for extended periods of time, a lot of times those things are in the category of outside of your control.
Mm,
So if you consciously realize that this is one of the items to add to the list of outside of your control that you
mm-hmm,
can't do anything about, and realize that there's absolutely no point to worry about this or even think about this right now. When you need to constructively think about it or take action, you will. But until
mm-hmm.
then, there's no point wasting time thinking about this.
Yeah, and then sometimes we just feel like we have so much, we feel overwhelmed, and then we don't start anything because we feel so overwhelmed. We think about all these things we have to do, but then when you break it down, you're like, oh,
There's
actually,
only
half of those things,
only a third of
yeah,
those things is
uh-huh.
something that I actually need to take action upon.
Yeah, and the other ones is just, it's not even depends, it doesn't even depend on you, so you just have to, yeah,
This is
let it
really
go.
helpful. This is really very important.
Mm-hmm. You know, I had read a bunch of books about this in the past,
Mhm.
and a lot of books were just like telling you steps about, oh, pile the all the stuff that you, all your clothes or anything specific that you need to get rid of, sort your piles, do this. They were like very specific steps on the items, but they were not talking about the biggest issue, and that is like the, I think it's like the emotional thinking behind that is that causes us to, yeah, to make that change. Like if you're doing a spring cleaning, yeah, one thing is like, oh, I gotta start doing it. And some books were like, oh, just throw like, make a pile like of the clothes you need to get rid of and get rid of it. Like, yeah, but sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes there is like a lot of baggage, like even emotional baggage that is behind, and we're, if you don't recognize it, they say that's why they were asking to write it. They say when you write it, when you write what are these troubles, you are getting the message. Like if you just ignore it you're not gonna solve anything. You need to like recognize if there is something beyond that, like if there is an issue, and then once you recognize it, even like say it out loud, then it's easier to manage, it's easier to handle. um
Yeah, and also writing is a whole different level of cognitive analysis
mhm,
that goes into it that is required. So
yeah.
I think it's a different level of analyzing the issue and possibly seeing things about the subject differently.
hmm yeah, it's possibly like seeing, they say like, you like, I think they're literally like the title of the book is what your clutter is trying to tell you. It
Mm.
was literally like, they say the having clutter is like trying to send us a message into something else, that like if the reason why we don't want to throw it out is because it's something else rather than just I don't have the time. Like it's something like beyond, and sometimes like something very um, that requires a lot of introspection. And so yeah, the first two chapters were just like, they say like, no judging, no censoring, just write down the reasons why it's hard, write down what is, in which area of clutter you are feeling more resistant, and yeah, what is stopping you from clearing this space. um and
For,
yeah, keeping an eye or keeping an ear out for anything, any emotions of resistance. That was the other thing, like they say, what is like the secret behind resistance, or what's causing resistance is, they say, it's your inner critic. So your inner critic is like, yeah, this voice in your head that is telling you not to change, and that's very natural. Like we don't want changes, even if there are changes that will make us happier or that are good for us. Our inner critics are afraid of change. They like the way things are, and it's hard to convince them that change is good for us. So like this inner critic is like, oh, you're not gonna succeed at this. Oh, this is gonna create more trouble. Oh, if you change this, or even just the, if you get rid of this, you're gonna need it later. Oh, why are you doing this? Like, yeah. So I think a lot of these journaling exercises was to let your inner critic out and see what they're thinking, to like befriend your inner critic and like get to get somewhere, like get to a solution. And
just wanted to mention that you mentioned the emotion of resistance.
mm-hmm.
Just wanted to mention that I believe in podcast 1 or 2,
Yeah.
I talked about the emotion of resistance, but in a slightly different context.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so here we're talking about a slightly different context, but those two concepts are still related.
What did
Uh,
we talk about in that one?
we talked about the emotion of resistance being when you're in a situation where
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be in,
Oh, I
like a
see.
class
Yes.
or a
Yes.
negative
Yes.
relationship or something, and
Mm-hmm.
you just don't want to be in that situation, and you're creating a lot of negative emotion. You're like, no, I don't want to be here. I don't feel like being here. This is terrible. And if you don't take any action, if you don't take any action at all, you're just generating negative emotional energy and burning it for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're staying in the same situation. So
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned 3 different ways uh, to kind of cut that process short and stop it and reroute the
Mm-hmm.
energy to stop wasting energy in those situations.
Mm,
But here you're
yeah.
talking about the emotion of resistance
Resistance in
in a,
terms of
yeah,
decluttering, like in terms of letting something go. Basically, it's letting
yeah,
something go. And like the book is very, I guess it generalizes, because yeah, like the obvious is just like getting rid of items in your house, but letting things go, it also means like in relationships. It also means yeah, like anything, habits, a job you don't like anything that You don't want to get it, yeah, you don't want to let something go. And so, like I said, the first three chapters were just very general, like it can be about items, it can be, and then it gets into, yeah, this emotional resistance first. Then it talks about there are three main causes of, like three main or common causes of clutter
I
that are
was just
beyond.
thinking of three. I wonder if what I'm thinking, I haven't read this book and you
Uh-huh.
have. So I'm really
Okay.
wondering if what I'm thinking is close to what you're
Okay. So I'm
about to
gonna tell.
tell
So
us.
these three causes are expectations, boundaries, and beliefs.
Okay, can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit more?
Basically, expectations, and I feel like this actually relates to that podcast where we were talking about effective time investment.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a lot, it's related because it's all about setting realistic expectations. So they say it's not about, oh, I need to declutter this, I need to clear out all my entire room or my entire house, and then you feel like it's way too much and you don't even start because, yeah, there is
And then
other
you beat
emotions.
yourself up over spending the whole day and not finishing it. You did
Hmm.
only
Or not
1%, and you're
even,
like, oh no.
but that's the thing, like, no, not even that, because you don't even start because you feel
Mm.
like, oh, it's too much. You don't even get to that
You
1%.
don't know where to start sometimes.
Yeah. So that was actually like that was literally one of the steps, like break down your tasks, but also
Wait, you said break down
your tasks.
into smaller
Uh,
tasks, right?
and also the expecting, yeah, success is not in the final result, but is in the process. They mentioned something along those lines. So they also mentioned a lot of Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro technique is like doing something for 25 minutes. Um, so yeah, they did talk about breaking down the task, or like breaking down, if you need to clean an entire closet, just go drawer by drawer. And every
Mhm.
drawer you spend, yeah, like a Pomodoro technique, you spend like 25 minutes, and you get something done. You get
So
like
you
a
s-
small
so you
step.
set an actual timer, right?
Hmm.
Kind of like
Also,
this timer.
I don't see
Oh,
anything right now.
man.
Where did you go?
So this is my kitchen timer. So I
Uh-huh.
literally use that to time everything, every little task that I do. You can set like 10 seconds and start, or 10 seconds and hit
Mm,
start, and it counts down and it'll tell you when the 10 seconds are up. Or you can do like 10
I
minutes.
see. I do that a lot, but I do actually every year I set a different time and like a different system. But right now I just do things in 15 minutes. So like
Yeah,
any
so you
any
can
task
do.
that I need to do, I just, yeah.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
so yeah, literally there actually that Pomodoro technique, and that's like a different story, but like that comes from a kitchen timer. Pomodoro means tomato, and I
Really?
think the person who invented this had like just one of those timers that are like in the shape of a tomato.
Mm,
And yeah, it's basically setting a timer. And because it was a kitchen timer with like Pomodoro, uh, yeah, and it's just setting the timer,
yeah.
doing something for 25 minutes, and then resting for five. Um,
That's a really good idea. This is literally what I do. Well, various times, but
uh-huh.
yeah. I set
Yeah.
timers for everything.
So expectation is basically that, like breaking down. They say break down into smaller steps, smaller than you think you need to break it down. Like break it down more than what you think you need.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because if you just generalize like, oh, clean this is it's too much. So like try to make it as specific as possible. So that was expectations. Then the other one was boundaries, and this is where it gets like more deep and more into thinking. Um, this one I'm not sure if I completely agree. Maybe I'm not there yet. But boundaries was like, what what am I tolerating in my life? And if there is any situation where I feel like I've been taken advantage of. And one of the exercises that the author tells people is to have a for 2 weeks do this thing called disappointment challenge, where it was all about learning to say no, learning to say no to others. So it was all about, yeah, like we usually don't like saying no to people. We don't like rejecting things. We just want to, yeah, say yes. And sometimes I guess it's so thinking about boundaries is like thinking, yeah, what am I tolerating? What do I have in my life that don't support the bigger picture of where I want to go, of my dreams or my goals? What am I accepting that it doesn't go along those goals? And to those things is say no, or like say no to some friends, say no to some outings, say no. And yeah, so basically she said to say no every day to a one thing for 2 weeks.
Wait a second. So this actually includes something that we talked about in a previous podcast. What
Mhm.
was the book where we talked about finding things that you do that
Ah,
don't
yes.
move your goal forward, don't move
I
you
think
towards
that
your
was
goals?
the effective time investment. And I think that
Yes.
was like separating things into things that get you closer to the goal, things that are just good for you, just like maintenance tasks.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it was like more like distractions or
Yeah, so we talked about that, and I really, really remembered that lesson because I figured out that it was really, really important because in my daily tasks, sometimes I make to-do lists, like large to-do lists, and I do a bunch of stuff the entire day, but then I look at the to-do list and the one thing that was like really important, I didn't
yeah,
do.
didn't get done. I know.
And then when you told me to look at and analyze and see if each item, whether or not it moves you towards your goal or does it
Mhm.
do anything for your goal. And then I
Yeah,
looked at the list and it was like 90% of what I was spending 90% of my time on did not do anything for my goals.
yeah, uh-huh.
So that's literally a waste of time. If well, it's not necessarily a waste of time if
But
this is
it's
like
just
self-care, if
mhm,
this is like entertainment, every once in a while you need entertainment,
mhm.
but then you overdo entertainment. You play video
Exactly.
games all day and
Yeah.
it's your day off, you didn't achieve
Uh-huh.
anything.
So yeah, so it's basically saying no to, yeah, to
So I
things.
just so I just wanted to mention that this is like one of the lessons that I found really, really important, really
Mhm.
critical.
That's
So
good. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is good because I feel like we usually don't think about it. We just, oh, I need
yeah,
to keep active. I need to stay productive. So you just do things, things, things. But like
and you think you're
you don't,
productive, but it's not
uh-huh.
moving you towards your goals.
Yeah, it's not moving you
So
closer to,
so what's
and
the
that was
point?
the whole thing about this decluttering. Is like, yeah, clutter is anything that gets in the way of your dreams, of your goals. So if it's not getting you there, yeah, it's an obstacle. And yeah, so that was boundaries. That, yeah, disappointment challenge. They said disappointment challenge was about saying no to things, even canceling things that you already committed but you don't want to do, like canceling that out. And yeah, I do find that difficult sometimes because I'm not the kind of person who likes saying no, especially if I already made plans. I don't like bailing. I don't like saying no after all. But
Yeah.
sometimes I really need to. Sometimes I really need to skip certain thing because yeah, it's not getting me. There is something else more important that I need to do, and I'm like, oh no, no, I already said yes, and is this person gonna get upset at me? And a lot of that was like talking about, oh yeah, that like boundaries, and if you don't do these boundaries, what's the reason? I think that was like a journal exercise. Like, why are you afraid of setting boundaries? Why are you afraid of saying no to people? And or yeah, or saying no to a certain thing, or um and just like doing more introspection into what's causing that. That was, so those were the first two expectations. boundaries. The third one that was very interesting to me. That was beliefs.
Hmm.
And they say a belief is a rule that we have that we learned at some point and then we stopped questioning because it became our way of life. It became our part of life. And a lot of our beliefs start when we are kids, when we were growing up, things that we learn with our families or with our friends or in school. And then we just think, oh, okay, this is the way the world works. And we set our mind on something and then we just do it for years that you don't stop after and question that.
Hmm.
Even things like, even like bad habits in terms of dealing with emotions, things that we saw other people dealing with emotions in a certain way, and then you just say, oh, that's the way we deal with this. If people are
Yeah.
yelling, like, okay, people, I grew up, I saw people doing this, so that must be the way.
This is the
And
blueprint. This is the blueprint that we get. And it's really difficult to change that if you don't have a replacement strategy that you can train
mm,
yourself into.
that's
Uh,
very interesting. Yeah.
when somebody treats you poorly, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
if somebody is, yeah, if somebody treats you poorly, for example, somebody is rude to you, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and we have certain strategies that are more toxic than others to
Mm,
deal with the issue, we
mm-hmm.
default to the strategy that is blueprinted in our minds from early age,
Yeah.
unless we can find somebody else who is a good role model to
Um,
model a different strategy and then train that strategy over and over again until it becomes comfortable. And then
mhm,
still, sometimes we revert to the old strategy when we're
mm,
tired or don't have enough energy to, because
yeah,
newer strategies require more decision making, more
yeah, more
conscious effort,
thinking, more.
more
Mhm.
thinking. So they
That
require
makes
more
sense.
energy.
And the other thing they mention is that at our early age, we create these beliefs, and it's for a good reason. It's not like we create this because, well, first of all, we can't process it in the same way that when we are adults, but also it helps us just to survive, like just to we do this in order to feel safe, in order to feel accepted by our families, in order to love our family unconditionally. We have to create these beliefs. And then that helps us as kids or as growing up. But then there is a point as when we are older that it gets in the way, that it gets in our way, and that it affects us more than it's helping us, and that's why, or that's when we need to stop and question why are we doing this and why are we doing like a certain thing we do. uh,
Question everything.
yeah, yeah, like, and they say yeah, they use this like 10-minute timer for these type of questions, like
Hmm?
identify like
10-minute timer? How? What do you
for
mean?
journaling,
Oh,
uh
for journal for 10 minutes?
journaling and answering these type of questions, like, yeah, like identifying beliefs that we have that are not helping us. Sometimes it's related to like self-esteem, like, oh, I'm not gonna achieve this, oh, I don't have what it takes, oh, I am not gonna, yeah, I'm so bad at this, I never finish what I start, things like that. And they say recognize these beliefs or like these phrases or these things that we tell ourselves constantly, and then come up with powerful opposite beliefs. So if we say like, oh, I don't finish what I start, you can say, oh, I'm able to break down the tasks into smaller tasks.
Yeah, the replacement strategy.
Hmm.
Exactly what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
oh yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly what you said.
yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, I have everything I need to get this goal, to get to this. So recognizing like this positive opposite beliefs is what we said before. And then, yeah, they say, oh, that this was interesting. So when you get to a positive belief and you're like, oh yeah, they literally say when you get to the, yeah, right, I get this, or like I believe in this, when you get to one, when you find a positive belief, write it down 10 times every day for 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks before bedtime. Because right before bedtime, because when you do that right after you have access to your subconscious, because you are going to sleep right away,
Mm-hmm.
so you write it down. That's like the last thing you do in the day. Then you go to sleep, and then it, I guess it does some action, like some in your subconscious, and then yeah, that just helps to get it faster in your mind, like in.
I can see how that could be helpful for because memory consolidation happens during REM sleep mostly, or deep sleep, whenever you're uh, resting deeply or in your sleep. So
Mhm.
I can see how that would be helpful to write it down multiple times before going to bed, multiple days.
Yeah,
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I really want to do this actually, this particular, like get
I
into
might try
something
that.
more positive, and then yeah, and then just doing that like right before sleep, because that's more effective than.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you have to be really careful with what you select to put in there in
Yeah,
your
I feel
subconscious
that's
mind.
why it has to be.
If you overdo it, I don't know what negative effects that might
Mhm.
have. Think
Yeah.
about, you know, creating positive self affirmations or
Mhm.
beliefs and taking it too far, for example, becoming a narcissist or,
Oh, yes,
just overdoing
that's
certain
true.
things that might be destructive in the end if they're overdone too much. But
That's
I
a
don't
good.
know.
Yeah, because even this disappointment challenge, I was a bit on the fence about if this is a good or bad idea. Because it's good. I understand it's good saying no to things that are not helping us, but then I cannot just go and cancel everything I have just because it's good for me. Like I feel like I also need to think about others. Like, and that's why maybe I'm just not there yet. But I do feel like I
But if
maybe I can say
somebody's
no from the beginning, but I cannot say.
but if somebody is using you and using your time and resources for something that benefits them,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean you just have to be selective of whether or not if you want to help them, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
if you're continuously being used for something
Mm,
where this doesn't benefit you, you don't necessarily
mm,
want to help that person, and you're continuously
yeah.
being used for your time and resources, it has to be there has to be a boundary. And I
Yeah.
think
And that was literally what it said. Like the first question was, in what areas in my life do I feel like I'm being taken advantage of? And then yeah, and then learning to say no to that, and saying no for every day for 2 weeks, then creating positive beliefs, and yeah, writing down these positive beliefs every day, and you know
I'm gonna
just
start
going
that.
back.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
start saying no as well.
going back to the our last podcast about
No, let's
gratitude.
not go back. I've already started. I'm kidding.
It is interesting saying no, because meanwhile, there are other books, there are a bunch of other books about say yes. I think
Say
there was
yes to
even a movie
everything.
with Jim Carrey about
Yeah.
say yes to
Yes,
everything.
man.
And now it's like say no to everything. You need to learn to say no.
I guess life is about balance. It's
Hmm.
you do one extreme for a while, you do another extreme for a while. It teaches you the boundaries of certain
You do
extremes.
one extreme and it helps you until it messes up. It messes you up. And then you do the other extreme until it helps you, and then it messes you up. And then you just go back and forth
And then
between.
eventually you learn where the balance is, like a balancing act between the
Yeah.
two.
Uh, Another thing. Oh, I was talking about so gratitude. I, I'm gonna use this exercise of doing this at the end of the day,
This
like before
exercise,
bedtime,
yeah.
doing like gratitude journal. Because then when the gratitude journal gets into, yeah, when you do it at the end of the day, then it gets in your subconscious. I feel like that will help to get the. Yeah, just to get that faster in your belief system.
Usually, I don't know. I think I've told you about this. I think I've sent you the book before. There's a really interesting. This is not like a book. This is like an instruction manual
Mm-hmm.
by Dr. Paul Dobransky.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called Mind OS, the operating system of the human mind. So he basically maps out all of the cognitive strategies of processing stress, processing emotion, different mental illnesses, different ways of thinking. He actually creates charts, like on the screen, creates charts of
Uh-huh.
how these things work. For example, anger. How does anger arise?
Mm-hmm.
Anger, you can see on the charts, like anger arises from hurt and
Mm-hmm.
etc. etc. So,
Mm.
and you can literally, you can guide yourself through uh, changing uh, and curing different emotions in terms of strategies and the correct ways of doing things. Wait, why was I saying this? I don't know how I arrived here.
I
What were
don't
you
know.
saying right before
Just
that?
going back. So we're talking about
Sorry.
beliefs and getting your subconscious mind, and then
Oh,
just going back to, well, I'll get this to the next step. After you have.
yeah, beliefs. It was just gonna say beliefs usually form when you have some sort of an idea and then you find confirmation for that idea
Oh, and
and
that's
then that
the thing. Beliefs need constant validation. So
yeah.
you have belief, and then you're always gonna look for that validation. And if you think, oh, nobody loves me, and then you have that belief, anything that happens, you're gonna look for that confirmation after.
Mhm.
Like if a dog barks at you, you're like, you see, even the dog doesn't love me. Like you're just gonna find
Yeah,
anything to
so
confirm.
yeah, so like I was saying, first it starts off with an idea of some kind that doesn't have any emotional energy attached to it, and then you that idea is reinforced with a certain amount of emotional energy, and it forms a belief. And
Mm-hmm.
once the person has a belief, they will go out and spend their entire lives looking for confirmation of those beliefs.
Yeah.
And you know, if you ask yourself, if you ask your unconscious mind, uh, why why am I so ugly? And then it starts to give you answers. So
Mm-hmm.
it starts to give you, oh, you're ugly because this and this and that. Then this one person dumped me. This one person hates me. Nobody
Yeah.
likes me. And then
Uh-huh.
what happens is, then you have evidence. You've created evidence.
Yeah.
So now that reinforces your belief, even if it could be a false belief. This doesn't track in reality at all, and you can still have that belief and you will basically look for evidence and
And then
disregard
you keep
anything that
feeding it, because that's the thing. Beliefs need this feeding, this constant feeding. Like
yeah,
this is what I
confirmation,
believe, right? Right? And like you
right?
just keep finding things that
And what
that
happens is
say that.
people
Yeah.
completely disregard anything that contradicts those beliefs, so
Hmm.
that becomes the problem. You
Yeah.
can't break a belief because you disregard everything that could potentially contradict.
Hmm. And I think that's why getting into creating an opposite belief and just setting it in your mind over and over until it becomes a habit that you create this new belief, then you create then you look for confirmation for the new belief.
Right.
That's the idea. And the last step of this is actually repeat as needed, because like you said, it's not something that happens naturally. And even if you create this belief and you are looking for confirmation for this new, more optimistic belief, it's still, you can still fall back into your old belief, into the old one that is more negative, and then you just need to repeat. You just need to keep trying, I guess. Um, and yeah, until you get some progress. Break.
Okay. Yeah, so the book Mind OS from Dr. Paul Dobransky is I found to be an amazing tool for analyzing those things and figuring out where beliefs came from. And then that combined with studying cognitive biases in psychology and just looking them up uh,
I just finished my
on
laundry.
Wikipedia.
Finished my laundry an hour ago. It stopped, and then all of a sudden, just by itself, it started filling up again. But that's why I had to go and check it out and clean it
Wow, that's you have ghosts in the house
up.
doing things.
I don't think it's ill goals. I think it's just the laundry wanted to do something. I think that the washing machine got
Came
bored.
back to life. Yeah, got bored. Was it
uh,
listening to our podcast? I'm kidding. I'm
I
kidding.
hope that doesn't make it bored. Make it so bored that it's like I'm just gonna keep watching.
I'm just gonna start doing something, anything to get my mind off of this.
Uh,
Yeah. I was just going while you left. I was just saying that. Uh, what was I saying? I've already forgotten what I said. No, I was just saying like things like MindOS, reading that and seeing how those beliefs form and just have it laid out on the screen is extremely helpful, is extremely valuable. And also together with studying things like cognitive biases, even just looking them up on Wikipedia, there's like a
mhm.
thousand, there's like a list, there's like a circle, like a giant circle that has different categories of cognitive bias.
Yeah,
And just
but I
reading
think
through these is so
that's the
interesting.
problem. If it's 1,000, how are you gonna get to all of them?
Well, there's
Like,
the most common ones. There's probably 10 to 15 that
mhm.
always come up in every conversation, and
Yeah.
that's always the source of the most confusion and conspiracy theories. But
Uh-huh.
then the other ones are just less common, but they still occur.
It's just interesting how, like many, like other books that we talk about, like gratitude or effective time investment, it seems that they have a lot of points in common, and
Hmm.
some of these points are related to this cognitive bias that we have that are not letting us move forward or get
Not
things.
letting you see things clearly and
Mhm.
make the right decisions.
The next point in the book to me that was very interesting. So this was addressing the causes of clutter, and then the next one was, is your clutter a handy distraction?
A handy
And
distraction?
yeah, so this is like they give an example of someone who says, "Oh, I like even losing weight, even weight like extra weight could be something like clutter. It's like something that you want to get rid of."
Yeah.
So like they give this example of a woman who says, "Oh, I need to lose weight. The day I lose this weight, this extra weight, I'm gonna find the love of my life. I'm gonna find a loving partner, and I'm gonna be happy and marry and happy." And they say, "What if after you achieve your goal, after you declutter, you don't get what you wanted? Like life doesn't become what you were hoping." So like, what if this woman is like, "Oh, I need to lose weight to find a love partner." She loses the weight, and she still can't find a love partner because there was something else. There was something in anything, right? Like it with her personality or fears or anything else that she thought.
But still, this is something that's helpful as a motivational tool. Like it still gets you to this goal that has other benefits like better health, less
Yeah,
risk of a heart attack, less risk of
yeah,
diabetes,
but not
and
not necessarily. Like well, that was just an example. Like let's say another example is like,
yeah.
"Oh, once I move these boxes out of my house, then I can start having people over and have parties here or something." But then what if that's not what you want and you've been telling people, "Oh no, I can't have you over because I have these boxes." But in reality, like there is something else, like there is something beyond. And you're using your clutter as an excuse. Like, "Oh, once I get rid of this clutter, I can move out, I can move to a different house." But really it's not the clutter. it's something else, and you're using that clutter as an excuse for other things that you don't even want to look into.
I think
Uh,
that this happens more often than we realize, and there are certain areas and things that we just don't want to think about and don't want to look
mhm.
into.
Yeah, and then we use, yeah, that's what they say, a handy distraction, like something
Right.
that we're like, oh, yeah, it's just this. Once I get this done, then yeah, I will be better off. But then that wasn't even the reason.
Hmm.
And and once you like declutter and you are afraid, that's what you declutter. Like you say, oh, I need to clean these boxes and then I'll be able to do this or exercise more. And then you get rid of the boxes and you're still not doing what you wanted. So
Yeah.
you're like afraid of getting to that point. Because then you're gonna feel like there is so yeah, you're gonna feel like
Then you will
stuck
be
or even
forced
depressed or something else.
then you will be forced to face the reality of whatever is actually causing this issue.
Yeah,
Then you can't say, "Oh, it's because of this clutter."
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it's basically like fearing something unknown, fearing something that is you haven't been there. And so for this, like they had an exercise, just like journaling again, being able to write like once my clutter is done, when my clutter is gone, I will be able to, and then just write like what do you think you will be able to, or what you want to achieve. And then, oh, I'm being nervous, I'm feeling nervous about finally getting to that point
Mhm.
because, and then you just write, or I'm feeling excited about getting to that point because, and you just write the reasons. I will feel happier, and then you write the reasons why you feel happier or why you think you will feel happier, and the consequences I will have to face are, and then you just write that down. Like what once that's done, are there any consequences? Are there any other obstacles that you will need to face?
I wonder how many people can actually reach this deep level of analysis
Mm-hmm. I
and
feel like
discover the true motivation underneath these things, underneath their excuses.
that's, and the other thing they mentioned, it takes time, it takes months. It's not like in a week you're gonna be like, oh yeah, my life is figured out. But one of the reviews of this book, and that's why I decided to choose this one particularly,
Mhm.
because there are like 100 different books on decluttering.
Yeah.
But one of the reviews said that this book have this book has helped her more than going to therapy for years. Because yeah, just like I guess just recognizing this like these questions and looking more into those type of things that we don't question ourselves. We just like we have this idea like, oh, I need to get this done. Once I get this done, life is good. But then yeah, all these ideas beyond that we're like, what else is there that I'm not even considering? Like I'm not, what other issues are underneath that I'm not even questioning? I'm not even getting there.
Discovering your true motivations and things that are lurking beneath the surface that we don't even realize are there. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like one of those things that almost like the things that we're blind to. Like remember I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about personality flaws. This
Yeah.
almost feels like one of those things that the mind has certain psychological mechanisms to hide from us. And maybe there's a purpose. I don't know.
Well, the purpose, like I said, that we have beliefs, and the purpose of the belief was to protect us. Like growing
Protect
up,
beliefs.
that's
Yeah.
to protect ourselves, like to feel safe. Because when we have a belief and then we just do that, we feel safe, or we feel stable, or we feel like it has helped us for whatever belief you have. It helps you when you go to that belief, it helps you to have better relationship with the people that told you that belief. Um, but then that's one thing, and then the other one is the inner critic. So our inner critic is like afraid of change, but then that fear of change is also for a reason. It's also to protect us. It's also because not changing things protects us to feel safer, to being
I think psychologically and evolutionarily speaking, the unknown is not a place that is safe
yeah,
from a psychological perspective, and
yes,
so that
definitely.
so we have to protect the belief systems that we have formed throughout our lifetime. Those beliefs are all connected. It's not like you can pluck out any specific belief and just say, oh, that one's false. I'll just throw that one in the trash.
Yeah,
A lot of those things are completely interconnected, and it's not only are they interconnected, they're also reinforced with large amounts of emotional energy, your experience, the way that you've seen your previous experiences, the lens of belief that you've seen those previous experiences from
yeah.
through.
It's definitely true. Just like a common example that I've seen in between some friends is when they grew up in a religious family. I'm not gonna like it can be any religion, but like they grew up in a religious family. They grew up and then when they are adults, they decide they don't believe in that anymore. They have questions, and then they just stop believing. And that's one part of the equation, okay? They stop believing, that's okay. They stop going to church. But then the rest of like everything that's involved, like they all the consequences that can carry. Like they might be growing more distant away from family if their family is highly religious. They might go away from their old friends because they're
Tradition,
tradition.
marriage, how they behave, things that
Mhm. Yeah, like it's not just like, oh, I don't believe in this anymore, okay? But then all the consequences that carries, it makes sense to be like, I don't want to change anything because once I change one thing, it's gonna create a
a
set of changes
butterfly effect.
like an avalanche. Like it's gonna create one change after another, and it's gonna affect me on other ways that I don't even know yet. So don't tell me that I don't want to stop believing in this or doing this. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I don't want to question it because once I do, everything else gets affected.
I think there's a great amount of both danger and difficulty in doing things like that, like making radical changes to one's belief systems, because our whole model of reality is formed upon those belief systems. And if that entire thing crumbles,
Mhm.
then it becomes very, very difficult to make sense of the world at that point.
Yeah, you need to
So,
like
Tim,
restructure,
I think to me personally, it's
reset
about
everything.
holding, uh, to me personally, it's about not holding very strong opinions uh, on things, and trying to not form very strict beliefs, and just looking at
Well,
to see where the evidence leads me,
yeah.
and trying to be more flexible and holding multiple paradoxical models of reality in my mind at the same
uh,
time and not letting them interfere.
that sounds good, but again, something like in beliefs, yeah, you can be like more abstract, like I believe this can be true, but this can also be true. But then actions are more binary. You
Mhm.
either do, you can believe, like let's say religion, you can believe or sort of believe in religion, but then there's the binary action. Are you gonna go to church with your family? Yes or no? Is there only two? Maybe you don't believe, but then once you decide
Mhm.
what action you're gonna take, that's gonna whatever action you take, that's gonna create a set of consequences. So one thing is like, and I've been there. I've been like, I mean, growing up, like from my 20s to now, I've changed some beliefs that were very strong very, very strong founded in me. Like very, I wouldn't question it. And I consider I'm a rational person. I question a lot of things, but there were just things that I could not question. And like, don't ask me about this because this is I grew up believing in this. I just can't question. And if I kept looking more into this, yeah, there is a lot more than just believing in that. It's like if I stop believing, am I gonna grow distant from my family? Am I like everything? It's related. So uh, yeah, it definitely changing your beliefs. It does change.
So
It
at
does
that
change your
point,
lifestyle, and it changes your. Is
so
I don't think. Sorry, just
oh yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but when you are like like if you're in a mountain and you see there's a bridge to another mountain
Hmm.
and you're like, am I gonna cross that bridge? And you're like, no, 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 I'm okay here. Because you're like, what if I cross the bridge and then I won't be able to come back? Or I won't be able, or like, not even not be able to come back. What if I like that mountain more than this
Hmm.
mountain? And you just don't want to leave. You just don't want to leave your current situation. And because it also, maybe your future self will like it, but your present self doesn't like seeing that, like doesn't like those changes. Your future self will get used to it, and your future self will feel happier, whatever they decide. But your current self doesn't want some changes that are inevitable when you change,
Hmm.
when you change a belief.
Yeah. But I think what I was referring to is mostly just uh, so we build our model of reality based on beliefs that we have. And I think for me, I try not to hold very strong beliefs one way or another because I have to look on both sides and try to be most objective as possible.
Yeah.
Because
But
in
what if one of those, let's say you are like you mentioned, like you are
well,
balance or like seeing both perspectives. And for example, what
hmm
if one of those perspectives you are aware that is full of cognitive bias?
hmm
Are you do
yeah.
you still treat them the same way?
So in order to be able to navigate reality properly and make the best possible decisions that we can make in
Mm-hmm.
order to maximize well-being for yourself and others, you have to be able to see beliefs for what they are and see evidence of every belief on both sides. But when we are emotionally attached to one belief or another, we become blind to anything that could potentially contradict that belief.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you've watched a lot of occult videos, a lot of those conspiracy theories where they tell you that if you stare at the sun, you will become all powerful, and then you stare at the sun, you genuinely believe that this will help you, and then you lose your vision. You get ultraviolet photocreatitis by burning your retinas because the sun is an extremely powerful, basically like a nuclear explosion that you're looking at and going
What?
blind.
Well,
But only if you
go
looked
ahead, and then
only if you looked on the other side of this belief, if you looked at the evidence on the other side and looked at the medical research that you can permanently damage your vision, that you can burn your retina basically by looking at the sun. If you can
yeah,
see that, you can consider the evidence and you can make a better informed decision that will impact even your health, directly your
yeah,
health.
yeah. But I feel like there is a lot of it's not there is a lot more that is involved than looking at the sun.
Well, it's just that
No, no,
it
no,
can be
no,
used as a
no.
metaphor for
And I know
everything
and
else.
I want to use that example because let's say that's part of a cult, right? And in this cult, they do that. In this cult, they
Yeah.
look at the sun for hours. Let's say even you are aware, let's say you have some medical knowledge background and
Hmm.
you are, or like even you just are quite knowledgeable. So you know that's bad for you. You know that's bad for yourself. You know for a fact that's bad. But let's say you join this cult And just let's say it's the most amazing people you'll ever meet. The people are super friendly, and the community is just so welcoming, and you feel, yeah, it damages your health and it damages your eyes, but it also has so many good advantages in your health otherwise. Like the community is creates this sense of belonging that you haven't felt. I feel like that happens a lot in cults. It's not about, so you think, okay, there is this one odd thing they do, like looking at the sunflower, but then there is this other spectrum and all these other possibilities that I have just by joining the group. I feel like overall I feel happier.
So
So
you're saying that it's not just about looking at the hard, cold facts and evidence. It's also about
emotion.
seeing, the emotional side of. There's a lot of research that shows that people tend to form beliefs not based on, not necessarily even based on evidence or facts or reality, but based on social proof. People are
Mm-mm.
more likely to form beliefs based on social proof from others, even when
Mm.
that belief might be completely ridiculous and nonsensical, not tracking in reality. And people still tend to get attached to that belief because of social
Word of
proof.
mouth, is that the way it's called? Word of mouth? Like when something, you can see evidence about this product is better than the other, but then your friend tells you this is better,
Yeah.
it's like more likely
Anecdotal
you're gonna
evidence, and
anecdotal
people think,
evidence.
oh, well,
Yeah.
this must be true.
Uh-huh. Because it's someone I know, and that someone I know told me this is better.
Yeah.
So you feel more attached to believing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's
Because it's a
more,
real person. It's not just a
mm,
number, a bunch of
not just
numbers
a
on the page.
study, a
That's
book.
an actual person to you.
Yeah. And it makes, I mean, yeah, it makes sense that we're built that way, that we are more like, oh, but this happened to someone I know, then yeah, you believe that more. Um,
That's a survival strategy. I feel like one of the issues is that we're just not designed to be uh, so connected through things like the internet. You can see a really, really odd case of somebody
yeah,
getting struck by lightning. That's like one out of a million, but that's a real person. That's a real
we're
danger. It's
this is very interesting. We're just gonna go going very, very far from the book.
oh,
Let
sorry.
me
Yeah,
just
let's continue with the book.
yeah, so
Get sidetracked.
that was so the last one I talked was the clutter. If clutter is a distraction from getting into something, like if clutter is distracting you.
Sorry, I keep getting back to conspiracy theories. We need to stop that. Just remind me next time I start complaining.
Yeah.
I have a lot of emotional energy attached to that subject, as you can tell.
Emotional.
Yeah,
Emotional. I thought you were like very rational.
yeah,
I mean,
I
emotion
try.
is inevitable. Even if even like if you're rational, the thing that gets you into believing something rational, I feel like there's always emotion involved
There
in
must be.
order for you to want to learn something. In order for you to want to learn something new, there
As a
has
part of
to
your
be emotion.
motivation.
Because yeah, motivation comes out from emotion, and if you don't feel emotion, you don't feel motivated, so then you don't feel engaged to learn anything new. But yeah, but again, going back,
But yeah, the
yeah,
book.
if
Yeah,
clutter is distracting you from something else that you need
I'm
to,
distracting you from the book
are you clutter?
constantly. No, don't throw me away.
It seems to match the description. You're getting in the way of getting of the goal.
No,
uh,
I am
yeah,
clutter.
but yeah, that was it. That was the book, and then the rest was just conclusion. And conclusion was break things more than you think you need to break them down. Follow the Pomodoro technique, and this is just doing things on set of like 25 minutes. Um, when you buy things, it's better to buy quality over quantity. So like better to buy one thing, but that you know it's gonna last for a long time than yeah than having quantity, than having many. And I feel like it's not only applies to it doesn't only apply to items. It also applies to relationships. It also applies like it's better quality over quantity.
So you
Uh,
should buy better quality friends.
yeah, buy them, give buy them with quality stuff. No, no, like of course, like better to have a few very good friends
Oh, yeah.
that are a bunch of acquaintances that you're not even close to. You cannot even talk about things. And, yeah.
Barbie
Or
has so many friends, but you have to purchase them.
oh, it has so many friends.
Yeah, you have to purchase her friends.
uh, yeah. I mean, like any rich people have to purchase. Yeah. Um, but yeah, quality over quantity. Uh, sorted things as soon as you get it. Like if you get mail, sort it as soon as you get the mail. Don't collect things and think you're gonna throw the things after. Like if something goes into the recycling bin, throw it right away. Like don't wait. Um, that's something that happened to me also with when I was, or like I've been in a process of like donating more clothes recently, and sometimes it's very hard for me to get rid of things because I'm like, oh, what if I'm gonna need it later? And then sometimes like I don't use something for 2 years, so I'm like, why am I keeping it? But then I use it, and like, oh, you see, I used it. I hadn't used it in 3 years, but I used it. But then I think, okay, maybe I used it once every 3 years. So those 3 years, that thing was sitting in the closet
Taking
with
up
nobody
space.
used. Yeah, taking space one thing, but also nobody was used. I could have bring it to a donation center, and for those 3 years, someone would have been using it. Why is it more important to me to use it once after 3 years, or to give it to someone and let that someone like because before I think I was just getting like donating or getting rid of clothes that were very old, that were completely unusable or like had holes or missing buttons or something. But now I'm like, okay, these are clothes that are perfectly fine, but I don't wear them. I don't use them. And I use them like once every 3 years. And I feel like it's almost selfish not to give them away.
Yeah,
And
I
when I
think
think
so.
of that, at least for me, that works. Because when I think from a selfish perspective, like you're being selfish by keeping them, I'm like, oh yeah, I should give them away. I should
Yeah,
let someone use them.
it's just basic effectiveness. You know, somebody could have been using this for 3 years and getting a good use out of those things, but they're just sitting
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
I just recently donated a bag of clothes I found in the closet. I was digging through an old closet and I found a bag of clothes, women's clothes, and with a bunch of new clothes with tags, shorts, uh, uh, a top with tags and everything. So it must have been there since 2014, maybe
Mm.
earlier, since my last ex. So she was over at my place and she put them in a closet. And I was like, I just saw it and I was like, there's a bag full of brand new women's clothes. What the
Um,
heck? So I just went and donated it. But yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
sometimes like
feel
that's
bad
the thing. And
donating.
those were things that yeah, for all these years people could have been using them.
Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry, ladies.
It's okay. The thing is probably they are out of date. Fashion has changed so much since 2014. So maybe
Yeah,
nobody will want them now. You need to wait until 20 years. Like right now, clothes from the 80s are
yeah.
very popular these days. So you just need to wait
Maybe they'll make a comeback.
other 20 years.
I hope so.
Just keep them in your closet for another 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing, oh yeah, like books, for example. You have books, they say collect gather all the books that you have and separate them in three parts. The books that you want to keep for sure, the books that you want to donate, and the books that are a maybe. So the ones that you're like, okay, I'm ready to donate this, do it right away and donate them. The ones that are maybe, go through them. I think those are the ones that need the most time because you need to figure out why is it a maybe. Why, if they're a keep, they're a keep. You want to keep them, that's good. But if they're a maybe, why you don't really want to donate them? Are you sure? Yeah, figure out if you want to donate them or keep them, and basically remove all these maybes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess that the same thing works for other items. But yeah, basically like keep, donate, or the maybe, and then tackle the maybe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, small steps. Like if you need to clean your closet, choose a very small section of it or a small section of your drawer and go through this. Uh, and yeah, once you have it, find like a drop-off location for donations and do it. But yeah, keeping expectations realistic and keeping steps very small so you are able to manage them. Yeah, using the Pomodoro technique. And yeah, I think that, yeah, doing this exercise, like these questions throughout the book with intention, not just doing it because you have to like fill it up, but like really thinking like this. I feel like those were very important questions, the questions the book talks. Like besides what items are hard for me to let them go. Besides that, it's like what am I carrying any beliefs that are making me not want to give these items away? Like, are you keeping an old item that your grandma gave you just because it was from your grandma? And then your grandma doesn't even care if you have it or not. Like, as long as you have the memory, it's
But
okay to not.
sentimental value, a lot of things have sentimental value.
A lot of things have sentimental value, but I feel like the sentiment is in you and it's in the memory.
Of
It doesn't
course.
necessarily like if your grandmother dies or something, it's not like they will be like, oh, I hope they keep that watch I gave. Like hope they keep that statue. Like it's not about that. Like sometimes we give so many sentimental value in the items when it's really the value should be like on the memories and the people. Or like you keep things from this person gave you, but then you don't even have a relationship with that person anymore. So why is the thing more valuable than the person that you didn't have trouble like disconnecting from the person, but you still have the thing?
I think it's
Then
mostly the emotional energy and the memories that you have
mhm.
that this brings to you.
Yeah, but the memories, you can keep the memories, and the memories don't need that physical item that is creating space, especially when it's on, like if it's something that you want to keep in display, that's completely fine and do it. But if it's something that you're keeping in the basement or the attic, and you're like just like, oh, I don't want to get rid of this because it has sentimental value, but the thing is getting dusty
But
inside
that
that
thing
box.
But that thing is this has the same effect. It brings it. Makes it more real. It's like that. Remember, you were saying that one place you love to go to, that one place where you were with that first guy, your first kiss or whatever, and you were
Ah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
and it brings you back to those memories, and you
Uh-huh.
feel like you have history in this place, and it's kind of that thing. You can't just
Yeah,
throw it out, get
but the
rid of
thing
it.
is, I noticed some sort of
Just
resistance.
playing, I'm just playing the
Let's
devil's
see.
advocate here.
Do you want to lie down and let me ask some questions, some more questions. So I'm noticing some resistance here.
Yeah.
Nobody hasn't read the book. Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like, no, it's completely okay to have this. sentimental values and sentimental memories. And if it's something that, like I said, like if you have a drawer of like your these values that were, yeah, very important for you, or that bring memories that were important for you, that's completely valid and that's okay. But if it's like three boxes of things that you don't even use or see, and you just have them in the storage room, but you don't want to get rid of them because they have sentimental value, it doesn't even seem like you're giving them that value that you say they have, because you don't even know.
Storage space is only like a couple of bucks a month.
That's actually something the book started talking about. I didn't mention this, but there was like billions of square feet just in the US that are only for storage. Billions of square feet that are from households that they keep their storage. Like, and 90% of them are occupied. And or these people with like big enough houses, but they have extra storage for these
Yeah.
things that they might need. And sometimes they don't touch them at all. And people, like old people, die, and they have this storage, and it was never touched. And
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Would you rather those billions of square feet of things spend the next 10 years in storage and stimulate the economy by paying those that money for storage, or spend those next few years uh, in landfills being thrown away?
it's basically the same thing. It is the same thing. Just like in one of them, they are using all these resources, like the storage, and keeping them in like in a the place doesn't get too hot and too cold for no reason. Because like I said,
Yeah.
many times it's not stuff that you get back to it. And yeah, maybe it's only $2, but that doesn't mean that it has. And again, if you're bringing stuff to a storage, then it doesn't really have that value that you say it has, because it's not even like you're like, I totally understand if you have something like a frame of something, or something in your drawer that once in a while you look, or like old letters, that's completely valid. But if you have these old letters in a box that you don't even know, but it's getting like eaten by bugs in the attic, then like, what value are you saying?
That's
That's
true.
almost like some person with mental illness, and like, oh, I keep all
Orders.
my, well, yeah, and I like these books about horrors, but like, oh, I like my cats so much, I keep them all in the when they die, I keep them in the attic or something, like something like I
That
said,
is
mental
serial
illness.
killer type of shit.
Exactly, and that's what I literally said, mental illness. Like if you
It's
have,
not normal. That's
well,
not
that's the
normal.
thing. Hoarding is also not normal. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
also
that's true.
not healthy,
That is,
and
yeah.
it starts from what if this has sentimental value? I don't know when I get rid of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. For me, well, I don't think I'm a hoarder or anything, but for me, like my main problem is that I just, you know how I'm interested in technology and everything. I just buy so much shit on Amazon. A lot
Yeah.
of things like stuff that I don't need, like this, like the fidget spinner, the fidget thingy with a bunch of buttons, and like you can press and it feels nice. And this thing, you can rotate it. You can rotate just useless crap that I have all over the place. And to me, like when I see all those things, all of those chargers I buy and all those things, when I see them, I don't just look and see a pile of trash. I see uh, every time I look at each thing, I see the functionality of what it could do.
Yeah, but then if you don't use that functionality,
But there's so much stuff that you can't use all of it.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
could
and that's the
potentially.
other thing. Like if you, it's almost like if you buy things for entertainment, like if you buy things for, let's say, the summer, so you're doing summer activities, and you buy an inflatable kayak and a bike and a bunch of like toys and a bunch of like sport equipment, and you're
Yeah.
like, then you do the math. and you're like, okay, the summer has this many amount of weeks, and I have this many amount of gadgets or many amount of like sport equipment, and then you figure out there is no way I will be able to use all of my equipment enough times to make it worth it. Then it's when it doesn't make sense and you need to choose some of them, prioritize some of them, and the other ones you need to let them go.
But what if you're like, one day you're like, oh man, I wish I had those swimming goggles that I purchased last year, and you throw them away. You threw them away. You no longer
Sometimes,
have them.
something I've noticed now that I've been cleaning my closets, is that I had so many clothes that then one day it's like, oh, in the dance parties they have like, oh, now we're uh
Like
camouflage,
a
and
theme?
now we're, yeah, theme
Yeah.
parties, we're sparkling clothes. And so many times I had like, oh, sparkling clothes, and I was like, I have the perfect dress for that,
Yeah.
but I couldn't find it because I had so much stuff that I didn't know where it was. I was in some drawer, but I had no idea where it was. Then what's the point of having it
So
if you can't?
when you need an item of some sort, like your clothes or like a cable, and you look for it and you can't find it for
Yeah,
tomorrow, and the easiest solution is just to buy another one on Amazon, it'll get here
exactly.
tomorrow, then you know you have a problem.
Yeah. Okay,
And I've
has
had
it
that.
happened to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I
That's
needed a cable
exactly
for
the
my
point.
GPS, and I dug through all of my drawers of my cables, my hanging cables on the door, hanging cables in the closet. Could not find it. So I bought one on Amazon. It got here the next day, but I was like,
Yeah.
man, this is really sad. Like, I
And
know I
then,
have this cable.
yeah, and that's the thing. You could have given it to someone or like something. So at least when you need it, you can just buy one more.
Yeah.
And some things are like fairly cheap, that you can just use it and then give it away.
Yeah.
Uh, I do. I'm a big fan of the library system. Like not only like library, I love libraries just because if I didn't use the library system, I would have so much crap. I would have so many books that I don't that I read once, and
Yeah.
that's it. I would have no space for all the books I've read in the past few years. And they have like a two library system in the city. So like if you need a blender or a slow cooker or like something for the kitchen, like kitchen supplies, there is a library for that. So like you subscribe, you pay some membership, like what, $30 a year or
Oh,
something.
are you serious? Is it
Yeah,
like, I'm confused. So this is like you borrow things like kitchen supplies or something?
yeah, there is one for kitchen supplies. There is another one for tools, like if you need a drill, if you need like something like in the house. Um,
Wow.
so you pay a membership, you pay like an annual membership, and then you book it when you need it. Because those are things that is only you only need it when you are doing something special, like either when you are repairing your house or when you are cooking something very specific. You don't cook it often. You cook it for Christmas or for a special holiday. So
Yeah.
you don't need it all the time. It doesn't need to be in your.
It's just like a one-time thing. You need to,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, so I am a big fan of these library systems because they help things to not get stored that you don't, yeah, like you don't even need.
Yeah, you use it once and then it just sits there. You don't have
And
anywhere
then
to
they
put
get
it.
obsolete. And
Yeah.
they then get, I guess similar to what I just got, like I got a membership for a car share. So yeah, because even if I bought a car, I will never use it. Like the city is very walkable. Every place I go is much better to walk. It's cheaper to take the transit.
Mhm.
So if I had a car, then for the special occasions when I need it, then the rest of the time it's just getting old and it's just getting.
Yeah.
Uh, so and same thing with like the scooters or the bike share systems. It's like, yeah, instead of having it in your house getting rusty, you You use it, other people use it. So
Does it
yeah, I'm a big fan of this sharing things.
does it ever rain there in your house?
Rain
Mhm.
in the house, inside the house,
Mhm.
not inside the house.
You said it's sitting in your house getting rusty. Why would it get rusty if it's not raining inside your
Oh,
house?
like a bike outside. It's getting rusty.
Oh, outside. You said
Yeah,
sitting in
like
your
in the
house.
storage.
Oh, okay.
Storage is part of the house, isn't
Okay, yeah.
it? Isn't rusty just oxidizing? And doesn't that even
Yeah.
happen? Like just the humidity will get things rusty?
Oxidation.
Uh-huh.
Well, the humidity inside the house should be like 30-40%, I
I feel
think.
like I'm getting rusty. My dance is getting rusty.
You know, I was really expecting my dancing to be rusty after like not dancing for like I don't know how long. Like I went to the
Yeah.
first social back in January 2020 or 2021, sorry. After not dancing for I don't know how
Years.
long,
Okay.
and I wasn't even rusty. It was crazy. I don't know how it happened.
Same thing happened to me. I don't know how. Like
It's
I
like
think
magic.
it's like you need to take 1 year breaks once in a while to get
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
uh,
Anyways,
yeah.
anything else about the book there?
Uh, I think a lot like most of the what I got, like besides the breakings and smaller tasks, use the Pomodoro technique. Um, Two things were interesting. One of them was the inner critic. Like they say, your inner critic is a loving liar. So like your inner critic is lying to you to keep you safe. So your inner critic is telling you like, don't do this. This is like, don't make changes. Stay where you are. You're gonna fail. You're not gonna achieve this, and then you're gonna feel sad because it's trying to protect you. Um, but yeah, in the meantime, it's harming you more than protecting you. So, but don't see your inner critic as your enemy, but more as this loving liar, like someone who loves you, but is just trying to protect you, and you need to get to good terms to convince it that change is good. And when you make some progress, and when you make like small changes, and your subconscious sees that that was good for you, then you feel more uh, I guess less vulnerable and more willing to keep making changes. So that was one thing, and then the other one was the clutter. They basically say like get into a good relationship with your clutter. Your clutter is like your friend. It's trying to tell you something, like it's giving you a
Mm.
message. And yeah, like once you do this, like thank your clutter for like the lessons that it has given you. Um,
I feel like
yeah.
that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially like relationship or emotional kind of clutter.
Mhm.
You can really extract some important lessons from that.
Yeah, and you can yeah extract lessons about yourself, about why,
If you
because
can
it's
find
one
your
of
true motivation.
yeah your true motivation. That's very important. So that yeah that was it. That was about the book.
Wow, that was very interesting. So this podcast is called Bicycle of Thought Podcast, and we called it after the train of
Train
thought,
of thought.
or
That's
like the expression train of thought.
mm-hmm.
Except trains go like 100 miles an hour, and bicycles, we're pedaling at like five. So, so we named it Bicycle of Thought Podcast. But we've already posted several episodes, and we've literally never mentioned anything about any real actual bikes. Not a single word. Like we've never talked about anything about bikes on this podcast. So if anybody searches this on YouTube and they're like, "Oh, this is a podcast about bicycles," nope. So we decided to talk at least a little bit to honor the name of the podcast and talk a little bit about our bikes, and because I love biking and I bike all the time. I try to do it every weekend. Before I started doing this job, I would bike literally almost every day or every other day for since last year. I've been exploring
Mhm.
all the parks in Dallas area. Just today, I finally experienced those bird scooters. You know,
Mm.
those scooters with tires in the front, tires in the back, and like a little steering wheel in front of you. So you stand like full height, and it's an electric thing. So you press a button and you just go. And it's not for
Mm.
off-road because it has little bitty tires. So as long as the road is like a park has like
Oh,
a
like a
paved road,
paved
yeah,
road.
you can go on that road, and it's just like download an app, pay for it. It's like I think I paid like $5, and I drove it around for like
Mm.
30 minutes or so, and then I
Mhm.
stopped it because I had to leave. But to come to this podcast. So yeah, so I always look at those things in terms of safety and what are different ways that you can fall off this bike and how to avoid injury, basically. So
Mm.
with this scooter, it actually wasn't super bad. It's pretty easy to learn how to ride it. I've never been on one of those before. This was the very first time, and balancing on it is a little bit a little bit odd because you
Would you
have
say it's harder than a bike to balance?
I think it's a little bit harder because on a bike you have your points of contact are your 2 feet at the bottom, then the seat where you're sitting, and then the wheel with two hands. So there's a lot of points of contact. On this one,
Mm.
you're standing up straight and there's no seat and you just have the steering wheel. So it's a little bit easier to fall off, but it seems a little bit safer in terms of just in terms of when you fall off, your legs don't get caught on anything, and you just can keep
Ah,
running
yes.
alongside of it. So you can fall to
Mhm.
the right, and you just keep running, and to the left, and you keep
Oh.
running. The only problem happens, and I almost face planted today. The only problem happens if you're going slightly faster, even just a little bit slightly faster than you can run. So if you
Oh.
fall to the side and you're going faster than you can run, as soon as your feet hit the ground, you're still moving, you
Yeah.
fall forward face flat on the ground. You face plant.
Oh.
And that can be a little dangerous. And it actually it says on there that they require you to wear a helmet.
I guess also like if you're in a downhill,
Or if
if
you're
you're in
going
a downhill,
downhill,
probably it's more
that
dangerous.
could be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Um, So I drove it around. I actually went on one of those in the park. There's some bridges that are very, very smooth surface, like a wooden surface, like a wood
Uh-huh.
floor. And it's just been raining
Mm.
earlier today. And I didn't know this. When you're just driving down the street, you you assume you can drive in a straight line and not fishtail and not like fall off. So I was riding perfectly fine on concrete, and then I got to this wooden area where it's rained a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and I accelerated just a little bit, and
Uh,
the rear tire just went sideways, and I just spun
oh.
out, and I nearly like just killed myself on that thing. So it seems a little more slippery and dangerous than a bike, to be honest.
I
But
see. But it's I guess it's more practical as in it just you just get faster and start using it.
yeah,
And
it's really, really convenient. Like I have a folding bike that folds in the trunk of the car,
mm-hmm.
folding electric bike with fat tires. It's a fat tire electric mountain bike.
Mm,
And uh, what was I gonna say?
you
Just
have a folding bike in your car.
yeah.
And
So this thing is really convenient because like if you don't feel like opening the trunk and if you're tired and you just want to,
yeah.
drive by a park and just like ride a little bit,
Yeah.
you don't have to like get the heavy ass bike out of the trunk and
Or
unfold
even
it and
bring
spend
the bike. Yeah.
yeah, or even bring the bike and spend like 10, 15 minutes assembling everything, putting it together, putting the battery and getting
Mm-hmm.
ready. This thing, it just has two tires and a steering wheel. You can just get it out of the trunk. It requires no assembly. You just put it on the ground, hit start and go. And
Mm.
it's super light, and it's a lot lighter than a bike.
I see.
So
And they are just, are they controlled by GPS? You just like take them
yeah.
whenever? Like, is there a map where it tells you where they are located?
Yeah, so if you download the Bird app, BIRD,
Uh,
on Android, well, I have Android. I don't know if it's
are
for
you
Apple
gonna get a
too.
commission for this? Is this an app?
No, this is not a sponsored video. This is I don't get paid anything for this, but I would like to if you guys are listening, you want to pay me money. I would like that. I love money. But yeah, so you just download the app and you can see them on the map there, just like Lime bikes. You know those
Mhm.
non-electric regular Lime
Yeah.
bikes? I used to
Oh,
rent
are line
those.
bikes not electric? I thought they were electric.
No.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
maybe they have electric now. I'm not
I
sure.
see. But they are mostly regular
But
bikes?
yeah, so I've been renting
Mm.
those Lime bikes before,
Oh,
and they
okay.
were regular bikes, and
Mm.
they're so easy to ride.
Now you're with us. I'll add my app now. I use Bike Share in Toronto, and they
Bike
are
share?
free on Wednesdays, sponsored by CAA. And
What?
yeah, for during the summer, during July, they're free on Wednesday, so I can just take a full day pass. I just
Wow.
get my. They just need the deposit, like they just need like my credit card info to get the deposit in case I don't return it.
How much is
Uh,
the deposit?
$20. And so if you so you can use it all day. You just need to return it to a station every half an hour. If you don't, like if you take half an hour more, they charge you $4 for not
Mm.
returning it to. They just
Why do you
want.
have to return it every half an hour?
I think it's because they don't want people to just take the bike and then just go away or something.
Really?
They
Every
want.
half an
But the
hour?
thing is, I mean, it's in the city and there are stations all over the place. So from one station to the other usually takes you 10-15 minutes. So you can go somewhere and chances are you're gonna find a station on the other side. There are a few exceptions, like in trails, where yeah, then you have to either re- go back right away or pay the extra. I feel like $4 is not that much for that.
But there in Toronto, you guys usually use it as a mode of transport, right?
Yeah, and as a mode of transport,
Oh,
there are stations all over. So
okay. But here in Texas, like you can't, I feel like you can't really go very
you
far on
can't
a
go on
bike.
the highway with
You
the
can't go on a
bike.
highway. I mean,
No,
for
that
those
seems quite
bikes
dangerous.
here, they usually just have those bikes like in the park and you just ride around the park and then
Okay,
you park
that's
your car
nice.
and then you take your car back.
They don't have too many stations here. Here's quite the opposite. They don't have too many stations in the park because the parks are huge. So just going from one station to the other takes like biking would take like 40 minutes to take to the next station. So I
Mm.
wouldn't make it on time.
Oh,
Sometimes
that's
some
sad.
parks in the city like they have, but especially the big trails because there is like a big trail that goes for kilometers and kilometers, so they don't have. I feel like yeah, it would be very hard for them to manage that because I think at the end of the day, bike share has to reaccommodate the bikes in a way that makes sense for people the next morning. So like they're available more in downtown or whenever like wherever like people need them. It's also interesting to look at the map. I just look at the map like in holidays. I look at the map and all the bikes are in the lake. You can see like the city has, you see how the map shows you like how many bikes are available?
Yeah.
So like everyone goes to the lake
In
on
the lake?
holidays, like on the lake shore.
Oh, like
Everyone
next to
goes
the lake.
next to the lake.
Okay, not
And
in the actual water.
or in the actual water, no.
Yeah. Okay.
um, yeah, but everyone goes to the lake stations during holidays. And then in a weekday, everything is like downtown. And like it's, or like at night, you can see all the bikes moving away from the lake to different parts of the city. So it's quite
Migrating
interesting. Yeah, it's
like
quite
birds.
interesting to see.
They're migrating like birds.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But those companies, they usually use like the most like safe and easy to ride bikes
Yeah, and
because
just
they don't
very
want,
standard bikes, nothing,
yeah.
nothing too crazy.
My previous bike was an electric bike. It was an Antier 500 watt electric bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's a mountain bike, so it's like a really high strength frame,
Ah, okay.
and you can off-road it, but the tire size was really, really small, like a 13-inch
Mm,
tires. So the problem with safety on that is it's really low down. So like if you're falling off the bike, you can just step with your foot out,
oh, that's nice. I should
and
get a falling
you
bike.
can reach the ground easily. But the
Yeah.
problem with this bike was like, and the owners, when I first test drove it, they told me like, oh, be really careful. Just look at the ground in front of you because
Oh,
you can hit like a really tiny bump in the road
yeah.
because the tire size is so small. You can hit a really
Oh,
small
yeah.
bump and not even see it, and you just go boom and flying off the bike. And like it happened to me a few times. And sometimes, when concrete road, like two blocks of concrete connect, there's like a line in the middle,
Yeah.
and you're driving next to that line and you go over that line and it just swerves,
Oh,
because the tires are so small.
I see.
So you can't, it's really hard to off-road that bike. But I've been off-roading it because I trained to off-road it.
Have you considered getting a bike rack instead, like in your car, and then just getting like a more regular bike?
I wanted to. So I wanted to get a bike rack, like that you can store a bike on top of.
Yeah.
But there's several problems with that I had. First of all, my car doesn't have the connection on the bottom for the bike rack.
Oh,
So you
uh-huh.
literally can't mount a bike rack. And
Mm,
you can go to like a dealership and request for them to mount like a 500-pound strength connection underneath the car, but it's
yeah.
really, really expensive.
Mm,
And another problem is that with a regular bike, like they're a little bit more like rain moisture resistant,
uh-huh.
and there's not a whole lot of things that you can steal off of it if it's locked.
Oh,
But with my electrical bike, it has like an expensive battery. It has a bunch of electronics on it, and it has a bunch of bells and whistles, and it also has a trunk.
clutter, clutter, decluttering.
Clutter. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and like if you're riding and the bike is outside the car and it starts to rain, it's an electric bike with a lot of
Oh, yeah.
electrical
Yeah.
things.
And it wouldn't be good to just trust the weather because, yeah. Or like, yeah, like if
But
you want
yeah.
to go on a day and then it starts raining, you don't want to be see that as an obstacle.
That's why I always wanted to, get a folding electric bike. So it just folds in half and the steering wheel folds down and it's
Yeah.
completely flat and you just put it in the trunk of your car.
That's very
It,
nice.
it fits
Unless
perfectly.
unless the tires are like, yeah, make you fall.
I was really like worried because I ordered this bike online and my
Hmm.
previous bike had 13-inch rims,
Yeah.
tires. This one is a fat tire bike, so they're 4-inch fat
Oh,
tires and they're 20-inch size. So I was really worried that it might not actually fit in the trunk. And when I
yeah.
got it, it fit like perfectly. Like it's a
Like
little
just
hard to fit it, but it still
uh-huh.
fits. So I was
Okay.
really, really happy about that. So I can
Yeah,
always
like
have it with me. I always, if I'm driving by a park and I have a chance, I can just stop and I just get my bike and start biking. But this bike was a little bit uh, less safe because I wanted, so for off-roading, I wanted a bike with bigger tires, and I also wanted something that, where the derailleur is that switches the speeds,
hmm.
and the center where your pedals are has
Yeah.
to be higher up because when you're off-roading, you can get hit. You can hit the bottom of the bike on rocks and things.
Mm,
So I wanted all of this to be higher up, like higher
uh-huh.
clearance. And what I didn't realize is when I bought the bike, I started riding it. The geometry of the frame of this bike is a lot less safe in terms of when you're falling off of this bike to the side, it's it's much higher and it's much harder to not fall over when you put your foot out. You can put your
Mm,
foot out and
mm,
still fall off and just fly off the bike. And
mm,
because it's higher up and and also when you're pedaling for a really tall person, it's
mm-hmm.
better to have lower clearance and lower pedals because
Oh, yes.
if you're tall, if the higher it is, the geometry of the bike makes it so that you have to raise your knees towards your chest, like high up,
Uh-huh.
and it's puts more stress on your knees. It's not as good
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah, and then you can't pedal for long times
and you can't
because it
pedal for
gets...
a long time, especially
That's pretty
since,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if you try something else, like let me know. Another like bike system or scooter system.
yeah, yeah. So I love this bike. I'm always constantly out riding this bike, off-roading, but I've gotten used to it. Also, another issue that when we were talking about earlier, like when you're falling to the right or to the left and you put your foot
Uh-huh.
out, like on the scooter, you put your foot out and it's safe and you can just continue running. But on this Eco Trick
Uh-huh.
electric fat tire bike, the geometry of the pedals is so that they're higher and more
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
So when the bike is moving fast and you put your foot out to the side,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it happens that the bike is still moving. You put your foot out, and the pedal
Mhm.
actually hits you in the back of the leg
Oh,
really hard with the force of the entire mass of the bike,
yeah.
and it
Yes.
rips through your jeans and rips through your skin and through your leg.
Oh,
And that's happened
has
to me several
happened to you?
times. Yeah. And I've
Is
never
that
had this issue on
is that
any
the
other
reason
bike.
because it's an e-bike? Was it if it was a
No,
regular bike?
no, it's not
It
because it's an
wouldn't.
e-bike. It's specific to this specific brand and specific design. I think it's a design flaw because my previous and chair electric bike that was lowered to the ground, I've never
Mhm.
experienced that before. Never had that issue.
Mm.
And I've test driven some other electric bikes and they were pretty safe.
So
It's
I
just,
think we're over 2 hours now.
oh, yeah. Yeah, we should finish. So
Maybe you can like start every podcast with 5 minutes of bikes to confuse people.
5 minutes
People
of
would be
bags.
like, just
Oh,
bikes,
bikes.
talking about bicycles. People will be like, oh, it's a podcast about bicycles.
Should I put this
And
at the beginning? The bikes bicycle part?
I don't know. Let's think about that.
Yeah.
Let's find a way where, yeah, where it matches like the thing. But yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So wait, are you reading anything else for the next one? Or
Um, I don't know. I'm reading right now. I'm reading braiding sweetgrass. Braiding. It's a tradition
what?
that they need braiding.
Braiding?
Braiding? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I should have used this for the next podcast. And I'm braiding, talking about braiding sweetgrass.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but
You know, sweet like grass, braiding grass.
you're not supposed to eat grass.
Yeah, you are. The Native Americans did that, and
When I was little, once I went outside and I just ate random grass. I,
uh-huh.
I think I was just really, really, what do you call it in English? Dumb. And and I don't know what I was thinking. I think I've seen like I was when I was little, I was
Cat
watching
food?
cartoons where with that um some cartoon character that was eating like a carrot, like a rabbit, like a cartoon rabbit. He was like eating grass or something. And I was just outside just eating
There
grass.
is quite a difference between carrots and grass.
Little Dmitry did not know this. So I came home and my parents gave me soup and I was sitting at the table and I was like nauseous. And I was like trying to eat the soup and I was like, nope. And then I just started throwing up, just
Mm.
projectile
No,
vomiting
my cat
everywhere.
does that. My
Huh?
cat eats grass and then she throws it.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
you have some
basically my
cat
intelligence
difference.
level was equivalent of that of a cat. It still is in certain regards, but anyways. Oh, so in the next one, I think I realized something that's very useful. It's a learning strategy that I want to
Not
explain.
eating grass?
Not eating grass. Learning strategy, that's something that I learned from my
Not eat
grandmother,
grass.
not to eat grass. So something I'll go into in the next one.
Okay. So the next
Anyways,
one, yeah, the book I'm reading is part of a book club for my work, but I also wanted to read it because it talks about traditions of the Native Americans, and it's something that I'm very intrigued about. Just I feel like there's not enough info about just the culture of Native Americans. And so this book is called Braiding Sweetgrass, and so far I've just been like the first 15 minutes of the book. It's an audiobook. But yeah, it basically just talks about how the tradition usually is like, so literally is a grass that make tea out of grass, out of sweet grass. It's one of their very popular herbs in Native American traditions that they just, it's a common uh, part of their diet or part of their just making grass tea. And so, but to make this, they need to take the grass and braid it. They say you
she,
can braid it like you hold the grass in your teeth and then you start braiding it, or you have another person holding it and then you start braiding. And they say it's in the tradition is more meaningful when another person is helping you braid the grass. So it's all kind of nice.
can't
Um,
say I've ever tried doing that before eating grass or
I've
making
never
tea with
tried.
grass. Yeah.
I've tried. I think I've had grass tea in one of like a Native American uh event that I attended. But yeah, just interesting.
Awesome.
Okay, the
Well,
light is getting. I feel
I
like
see
the
light
light.
on your face. Well, it's the
Yeah,
sunset. It's from your picture. There's a sunset going on,
uh,
so it's been,
it's going in the back and in the front.
yeah, the sunset is on
Yeah,
the wrong side,
I
and
feel like the I'm literally like guiding the time. When we started talking, the sun was like around here, and now it's here. So it means there's been quite a few hours that we've been
yeah,
talking.
quite a few hours. Well, this was a lot of fun. I think I've learned a lot from this book and from looking at the mind map. And thank you for reading and teaching this to
I've
us.
learned a lot too from like all these comments that you make and like other books that you read.
This book actually has a lot of things that relate to the previous things that we've talked about.
Hmm.
So it made a lot of sense. So
Yeah, it's interesting how like other books connect, like they have the same things in common, right? Like resistance, like breaking down things, realistic expectations. I feel like there's been at least three books that talk about that.
yeah, yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. This was super
Thank
interesting.
you. Thank
Have
you.
fun. Have fun watching the sunset
You
behind you
too.
there and
Yeah,
or in front of you, whatever.
this sunset or this sunset.
Alrighty. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you.
All right.
Bye
Bye.
bye.